Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Look, let's be completely honest for a second. If you've ever pulled up one of those how to become a data scientist roadmaps online, you've probably felt that immediate sinking wave of panic, right? You're told that before you can even think about touching a single line of Python, you've got to master multivariable calculus, differential equations, and some intensely advanced linear algebra. It sounds incredibly intimidating, it sounds super academic, and frankly, it's just frustrating. But here's the reality check we all need. For about 95% of data science jobs out there, doing all that by hand is a complete waste of time. So here's exactly what we're going to cover today. We'll start with the gatekeeping myth, then move through the three actual pillars: linear algebra, calculus, and statistics and probability, before wrapping up with a highly practical action plan. All right, section 1, the gatekeeping myth. Basically, academia versus reality. You know, academia absolutely loves to make data science sound like this impossible mountain you have to climb barefoot, like you literally must master complex calculus by hand. But the reality is completely different. Academia gatekeeping expects you to memorize endless proofs, but in real-world practice, we use framework libraries. Think of tools like scikit-learn. Honestly, you should just treat these libraries as a highly advanced calculator. Your job isn't to be the calculator. Your job is to understand what the calculator is actually doing under the hood, so you don't end up building broken models. Moving right along to Pillar 1, linear algebra, and what I like to call the illusion of complexity. Now, what's really interesting about this is that academia wants you standing at a whiteboard manually inverting a 4x4 matrix. But in reality, a Python library does that in literally 1 millisecond. What you actually need to care about is dimensionality. Think of a dataset. Every single column or feature in your data represents a distinct dimension. Let's say you're trying to predict house prices, right? If you only look at square footage, well, that's one dimension. Add the number of bedrooms, you're working in 2 dimensions. Throw in the neighborhood's average income, and boom, suddenly you're in 3 dimensions. Once you grasp this idea of dimensions, the scary jargon becomes remarkably simple. In data science, a single row of data is called a vector. Don't let the fancy word scare you. It's literally just a coordinate pointing to a specific spot in that multidimensional space we just talked about. And the entire data set, that whole thing, is your matrix. It's just a massive grid holding all those individual coordinates. See? No complex abstract math required to wrap your head around that. This makes advanced stuff way easier to understand. When you hear people talking about highly advanced techniques, things like principal component analysis or PCA, or even creating embeddings for massive large language models, all we are actually doing is compressing that high-dimensional space into something much smaller. We do this simply so our algorithms can run way faster without losing the really important information. And hey, if you want a massive shortcut to success, just understand the dot product conceptually. It's really just a conceptual measurement of how similar 2 vectors are to one another. I promise you, if you can grasp that one basic concept, you've already mastered like 80% of the linear algebra you're actually going to use on the job this week. Okay, let's move on to pillar number 2, calculus. And remember, only the direction matters. Let's see how this builds, because calculus is pretty much the ultimate boogeyman for self-taught developers. You see integrals and derivatives, and you just want to immediately close your laptop. I get it, but you really only need to understand optimization. When a machine learning model learns, it's really just trying to minimize its mistakes, which we call the cost function. Imagine you're standing on top of a super foggy mountain, and your goal is to reach a village at the very bottom. You can't actually see the path, but you can feel the slope of the ground under your feet. So what do? You take a step in the direction where the ground slopes downward the steepest. That is calculus in data science. It just tells the model which direction is downhill, and we call this whole process gradient descent. Now, to guide that descent, you have to tune something called a learning rate. If your learning rate is too high, you're basically taking giant leaps, and you might overshoot the valley completely. But if it's too low, you're taking tiny baby steps, and it's going to take forever to get down the mountain. The crucial takeaway here is that the library calculates the actual, hardcore mathematical derivative for you. Your job as the data scientist is to tune these hyperparameters effectively to guide that descent smoothly. Which brings us to pillar number 3, statistics and probability, the real king. All right, let me shift my tone for a second, because I cannot stress this enough. This is where real business value is won or lost. If you have limited time, spend 80% of your math study time right here. You absolutely must deeply understand 3 core areas to separate yourself from someone who just mindlessly plugs numbers into an API. Those are descriptive statistics, hypothesis testing, and conditional probability. Let's break these down real quick. First up, descriptive statistics.
Look, you need to know that a mean, or an average, can be completely ruined by just a few outliers. Think about it. If a billionaire walks into your local coffee shop, suddenly the average income in that room is millions of dollars, which obviously completely skews your data. That's exactly why the median is often your absolute best friend when you're looking at things like customer income or credit risk. You have to be able to look at a distribution curve and instantly understand the variance, how spread out your data is, so you don't end up making skewed, terrible business decisions.
Next up is hypothesis testing. Real companies don't just change product features blindly. They run A/B tests. Let's say version B has a higher conversion rate than version A. But how do we know that lift is actually real and not just luck? Well, you need to know what a p-value actually means. If your p-value comes back at less than 0.05, say 0.03 for example, you can confidently look your stakeholders in the eye and say, hey, this lift isn't just a random statistical fluke. The change is mathematically real. And this brilliantly illustrates our third statistical area, conditional probability, and specifically Bayes' theorem. It answers a simple yet incredibly powerful question. Given that event A just happened, what is the exact likelihood that event B is true? This specific piece of math is literally the backbone behind real-world business protections. It's exactly how credit card fraud detection works. It's how your email spam filters operate, and it's how models evaluate risk based on a consumer's past payment history. It's absolutely crucial. All right, let's wrap this up with the action plan. Reverse engineer your learning. It is officially time to reverse engineer how you learn. Seriously, close those 800-page academic textbooks right now. They are only slowing you down. Here is your concrete 3-step action plan to learn contextually while you are actually writing code. Step 1. Start with a simple data set and code a baseline model using standard libraries. Step 2. When your model inevitably performs poorly, because it absolutely will, inspect the errors and the metrics. And step 3. Look up the specific math behind that exact error. So, for example, is your model overfitting? Perfect. Now is the exact right time to go look up the math behind regularization techniques like ridge or lasso. Or are you seeing a classification error? Well, that's your cue to dive into the mechanics of confusion matrices and ROC curves. Targeting specific failures like this will literally save you hundreds of hours of total frustration. And more importantly, understanding the math in the actual context of the code makes you a highly practical, incredibly attractive candidate for hiring managers.
So the crucial point I want to leave you with is this. Focus on the concepts, automate the computation, and focus entirely on solving real-world business problems. Deeply understanding statistics is what separates the everyday code monkeys from the true strategic analysts. Because protecting a company from making catastrophic, incredibly expensive mistakes, that is exactly what you are actually getting paid to do. Which leaves us with one final, exciting question for you. What real-world business problem are you going to solve next? If you found this explainer liberating and you're finally ready to ditch all that academic noise for real results, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment below telling me exactly what model you're building next, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.